you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not because they want to do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shit.
How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Tier Talk. Good discussion. I think that's going to hit home with a lot of people, especially those frontline warriors. Not pulling your own weight. So we're going to share this from a custody perspective, all different levels of a custody perspective because we have that present right now. Also from a medical perspective. And again, I'm sure we all can relate to working with people that just don't put enough into it and wind up making us do more of the work. And it was a good topic that was suggested my way. And I have a great panel to share that discussion. Russ Hamilton's back on. Russ, you mind introducing yourself and let's get some updates on Keepers of Chaos and that event you're hopefully going to do in April.
That's right, everyone. My name is Russ Hamilton. I'm a former sergeant with California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. Started my career way back in 1989. Retired a few years back. Went to work for a little while for a juvenile detention facility in Northern California. Brand new department. Then retired again, and now I come here and I do this and a few other things on the side. And those of you that are on my Facebook page, Keepers of Chaos, know that we're about to do an event for corrections officers in a Tough Mudder out in Lake Tahoe. Haven't quite decided on the dates on that yet. Going to be sometime in probably May or June. And we're hoping that it's going to, take off and go real big. I'd love to have, 25, 30 or more people out there all in a team effort on the Tough Mudder, which is a grueling 12-mile race with 18 or more obstacles.
And I do want to reiterate, even if you can't participate, it would still be good to have you guys show support because I think the effort here, me and Russ has been discussing this for quite some time, is to kind of see if we could take the groups outside of social media. Correct? We have these great groups, these great communities that exist even on the Tier Talk channel, Keepers of Chaos, and it would be great to see, those numbers in person. I mean, I know we would love to meet who's been, in our community for quite some time. We haven't had a chance to really have an event, and this is something I think that is worthy of us going out there and either participating or showing support. So I think the key is really just let's connect. Let's show people that we're united and that we're more than just social media fanatics. I think that's the key, Russ. And I think it's a great idea, Russ. And I think it's a really good stand-up effort. So I appreciate it. And I can't wait to see what happens in April. Connie, how are you, Connie?
Hello. Connie Alleyne here, founder of the Civilian Corrections Academy, also podcast host of Fly Behind the Wall and Conversations with Connie, criminal justice professor at Monroe College, and a contributor on Tier Talk. So I am certainly happy to be here. Look forward to our conversation today.
I like how you add contributor Tier Talk now. You never used to do that. And the funny thing is, I think people can actually automatically assume that you are a contributor Tier Talk because you're on Tier Talk right now.
Absolutely. But listen, I got to get in the habit of saying it, right?
Yes, but that's for your venues.
No, it's for every venue I'm on.
And by the way, guys, please, all jokes aside, please check out the stuff she has. She has great podcasts, a lot of great information. And again, even though the information's, really for civilian staff, don't think that we as custody can't get a lesson or two from there because really an understanding of each other's role is really important for us to kind of succeed in the overall mission and just ultimately bring back really good employee morale. And definitely we need that now, especially in these times. A lot of people are overwhelmed with work due to the COVID, due to just mass releases. So whatever we could do to, build that bridge and show support for each other, because if ever it's needed really now. Trust me, guys, it really is. Greg Piper, Greg Piper has been not with us for a while. He's been doing his thing, making sure that facilities are safe and secured, working for a great company called Guardian RFID. Very big fan, very big supporter of our message. As you can see, I have their, no, I don't actually. I am so sorry. Holy, I could have swore I had a Guardian RFID app, but for some reason I was shut down before the episode. Go ahead, Greg. You might as well introduce yourself now.
Yes, my name is Greg Piper. I'm the Director of Training for Guardian RFID. I have about 15 years in corrections between a state facility in Kansas. I was also a deputy sheriff in Hamilton County, Tennessee. And then I've been with Guardian 4 years now, been to about 250 jails across the country, implementing our system, our software, and our technology, but really just reaching out to corrections professionals across the country, giving them all the encouragement I can, talking with them, working with them, encouraging them, really trying to understand how we as a family and a community can reach out, because we don't get that opportunity. So I get that joy of being able to travel across the country and being able to be a connector and try and bridge people together and match corrections professionals to each other so they can really understand we are a family. And there's some things you need to learn from each other, and we need to grow and get better every day. And that's my passion.
Well, and it's a tremendous sacrifice, obviously, because a lot of your work takes you away from your family onto the road across the country. And obviously, we at the Tier Talk panel, I'm sure my community well appreciates what you do, appreciate what the company's about. And again, every day you're making our facility safer. So I appreciate that. It's a great thing to be a part of. Now, guys, this show is going to be very unique. We kind of just decided to talk about this topic just to get some content up there. So like always, we're not scripted. We're just going to see where it goes. But I think we all can share a story or two about people not pulling their weight and how it affects us. But I think we can show from different perspectives, frontline management, because sometimes management is responsible for not divvying up the work, if you will. And sometimes that could disenfranchise those star employees who, are going above and beyond, but then they start realizing like, well, wait a second, am I really, going above and beyond because I'm appreciated, or am I really being used? And I think that's part of the topic that's going to cross into that today, especially with a staff that's overwhelmed. So guys, if you haven't, the show Tier Talks to you, brave men and women that work in corrections. So please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. The bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. We're going to go to our sponsor. When we come back, let's talk about pulling your own weight. Stand by.
I wanted to attend a university that had an intelligence program. I wanted to look at problems different. I wanted to increase my critical thinking abilities. AMU offered those avenues to expand. Obtaining your degree as an adult, you're actually paying yourself and investing in yourself. You can't put a dollar on it, it's priceless. It's something that can never be taken away from you.
American Military University. Learn from the leader.
Guys, inmate manipulation is a course that is highly needed. It's the process that's so slow moving and subtle that you don't realize it's happening. When inmates choose to manipulate, they manipulate our need to react. Situational awareness and insight is going to save your career. It's going to save you from doing foolish things. Listen to your gut. So the more insight we have, the more we can recognize what isn't so overt, and we can correct our behavior before we fall into a trap that we can't get out of. If you allow an inmate to pull you out of your prescribed role, you are opening up a door for a host of problems. Inmate manipulation, the psychology behind inmate manipulation. Available now. Link in description.
All right, guys, so welcome back. All right, so this is a very interesting topic. I had a few to think of, and maybe later on down the line, we could touch on some, because we were actually thinking about touching on officers being resistant to COVID testing. I thought that was an interesting topic, but I don't know if we're having a lot of resistance, but if we are, and you guys have a chance to comment, let me know. Let me know if you feel that COVID testing at your facility violates your rights if you're being forced to take it. So far, I believe most of us are on board with taking it. But again, I don't know if everyone's on board. So I'm curious to see that. And then I thought we could have a discussion and we could bring Connie in as well as our other frontline professionals and discuss it. But in the meantime, the topic that we did choose was pulling your own weight. So right off the bat, I guess we could start with Russ, if you don't mind. When we're talking about pulling your own weight and we're talking about from a custody perspective, right, from the front line, what do you expect from a partner? And let's just keep it general at first. I mean, we can even talk, let's just say about a housing unit or, a spot where you're partnered up with somebody, maybe even someone that deals with, let's say, general assignments or response team, whatever it is. But just in general, what would you expect from your peers or your partners on the job when it comes to pulling their own weight?
I think I've been pretty lucky through the years to be, for the most part, partnered with people that wanted to pull their own weight and pull some extra weight beside. Corrections is one of those things where you can't just, get in there and try and do the minimum and expect that you're going to be looked on as a valuable member of that team, of that shift, you know, of that crew that's running the units. You really have to, you know, take it to heart and decide that you're going to be a self-starter. You're going to go out there. You're going to do everything that you're supposed to do, everything that's listed in your post orders, everything that you should be doing to keep things safe. And then once you've done those things, you have to take it upon yourself to do a whole lot more. You have to be, you know, trying to identify gang members. You've got to be looking for potential security breaches. You've got to be doing extra searches. And sometimes when you have those few individuals who just want to rest on their laurels, if they have any laurels at all, and they just want to try and find a way to do the absolute minimum work, you know, that's a warning sign. That's a danger. It should be going off in your head that this person is negatively impacting the safety and security of your unit. Because what happens is they're the ones that aren't doing the searches. They're the ones that aren't out there trying to, you know, find the crimes and make the charges stick. They're the ones that can't be counted on in the midst of a riot or some other major disturbance. And it's easy to identify those people because they're never around when you need them.
Yeah, you know, Russ, I definitely want to, I agree with you 100%, because the thing is that if you're motivated in this profession by just like all I care about is me, and basically that's just it, I don't really care about the team, then I honestly feel that you're not going to give everything that you should. You know what I mean? Because in the end, it's like I don't care about anybody else. I only care about me. So in the end, if I don't feel like doing something, well, I guess it only affects me, you know, which is not the case in corrections. Corrections is very dependent on the 110% effort that each person can put on the table, because it's not just about you. It's about what you do that could affect others and what you don't do that could affect others. And I see Greg nodding his head. Greg, teamwork should be definitely a motivator for people to go above and beyond in this profession, especially if you push we're family, we have each other's back. So if that's the case and we're family and we have each other's back, you know, you could say that all you want, but are you showing it? Are you doing it?
Well, I think that one thing I want to point out is Russ mentioned in the beginning that he's been very blessed. He said to have a lot of people that he's worked with that did pull their own weight and that did work really hard. And I honestly think that that is partially, or a majority of that is a function of Russ in being the influence in that group. Because I have some similar situations where I felt like the people I was working with, we did give 100%, but I think that's a matter of my attitude reflects off them and vice versa. If you start to go down that path of, well, I'm going to take a shortcut, your coworker, you're the guy on shift with you, he's going to start taking those shortcuts. And so next thing you know, the two of you have worked your way down into an attitude where you're going to do the minimum amount necessary to get the job done. And that is where safety comes in. And that's where people get hurt. So we do have to take that effort and that time to say, you know what, it is about teamwork. No one gets through a shift alone. No one fights alone. So we do have to understand it's a team game, and I got to do my part. If I don't feel like it, I need to make sure somebody knows, hey, I need to step up my game tonight. What can we do to make sure we are pulling it? Because people get hurt in corrections when people don't do their job.
You know, and you mentioned something good about, like, if I don't feel like doing something today, maybe that's not normally me. Maybe I'm a worker, I'm a go-getter, but sometimes you have those days where, you know, you may not have the energy, whatever it is. Maybe you're mentally exhausted or you're physically exhausted, whatever the case may be. You know, if you have a good supervisor, but again, you have a good reputation, you're not a lazy officer, just one of those days, maybe that good supervisor would listen to you and say, you know what, not a problem, you know, we'll get your back. And us as a team should step up, you know, and say, hey, you know what, you're not feeling good, not a problem, we got your back. You know, whatever's going on, that's fine. I'll step up and do the search, because I'd rather know that we're putting 110% behind that search. And at least, you know, as I said, we all have bad days. We all have days where we're just not feeling it. And I think that's where we can complement each other. But again, it's not for people that are doing it to get out of the job. I'm not mentioning that. I'm just saying sometimes we have bad days, and sometimes we as a family can step up and say, hey, take a break today. I got that. I mean, I've seen, I believe it or not, in my career, I've seen officers that would work a unit and just one day they're like, you know what, man, I'm not feeling it. They scheduled me in the unit today. I'm just not feeling it today. I'm not feeling it. And they're good officers. They work the unit normally. They're just having a bad day. And I would see peers go, hey, want me to get the unit today? You could go be a, you know, general assignment and, you know, maybe, you know, do whatever you got to do on the outside of the unit. But I could take care, or maybe even be rover patrol. You know, because sometimes you need that break from the inmate population. And for the officers that could do that 5 days a week, however, God bless you. Because to me, it's one of the hardest jobs. But if you ever need that break, sometimes we do step up, you know, and say, hey, you know, take the rover, whatever, and I'll go ahead and I'll cover the unit for you. I would like to see more of that if it's not happening. But again, it's for people that are given the effort, are going the extra mile, and just maybe that one day they're exhausted. Connie, you see this in medical? Do you see where there's medical staff that kind of don't pull their own weight and how it affects, you know, their environment, their peers, their coworkers, and also, like, you know, we're talking about safety and security. Maybe in medical, we're talking about life and death.
Yeah, I mean, so it's very difficult to be in medical and not pull your own weight. So, I mean, given our staffing shortages, given the, you know, significant number of people in the population, and I mean, even when you look at the needs of the population, when you get into correctional medicine, you're kind of just preparing to be busy for most of your day. And sure enough, if you have someone who's intending, or it seems like they're not pulling their own weight, you know, I've had nurses come and say, listen, she's not doing what she needs to do. I mean, after having a conversation with the nurse, trying to explain, here are some things that need to get done, you know, they're not necessarily going to work their fingers to the bone just because someone's not, you know, pulling their own weight. They're actually going to come forward and say, hey, listen, this is not working out. Maybe you need to put her in, you know, or him in a space where, you know, it's a little slower. You know, someone working at this pace is not going to work out in this unit, you know. And really, I think one of the biggest challenges is that, you know, as a manager, if someone comes to you and tells you that, you have to be prepared to, one, have that conversation with the person, whoever that a person is, and you have to be able to look at what those assignments are for the day. As a manager, was it something equitable? Are your expectations of that person greater than what could be done on a particular shift? And I think that matters. So what shift they're on would matter. If they're on day shift versus evening shift versus night shift, like, the pulling of the weight has a greater impact depending on that shift. So when you're on first shift, we don't have time for the messing around, right? Maybe second or third shift, you might have a little more slack, but even third shift, as much as we might say it's not as busy, because we're usually at a skeleton crew on a third shift, it makes it very difficult for you to not be pulling your weight, for you to not have the diabetics ready, for you to not have those things prepared for the people going to court in the morning. So I think there's just, you know, yes, it can happen, but once it's brought forward, it has to be addressed.
And I like how you mentioned too, as you start getting down to those skeleton shifts, not pulling your weight will be noticed. You know, maybe on the bigger shifts, it's not so easily noticeable, but when you get to those smaller shifts where it's a lot less staff, you're going to notice it real quick. And also, I would like to think as management, because management definitely has to reinforce pulling, you know, having staff pull their own weight. And there's sometimes where they're not doing it correctly. And what I mean by that is you could have a star employee that you wind up becoming reliant on as manager, you know, as a management, as a supervisor, and you wind up overusing that employee, you know, not realizing that, you know what, technically I have other people that could be doing the job, but right now I become so reliant on the star employee because they go above and beyond that I'm not taking into consideration that, you know what, I should just be giving these people work as well. I'm not divvying up the work because I come so reliant on what this person does for me. And now the problem here is that if I don't divvy up the work, this star employee, the person that has this great potential to be something great in this profession, is going to become very disenfranchised because one day they're going to see other people not doing the job. And it's going to be hard for you as a manager to sell to them, well, I needed you to do it because you're that person. It's like, yeah, but I was doing 5 other things that day. And then you just kept on giving me more and more work. So at that point now, I feel like it's not about me being a star employee. It's about the fact that I feel used because when I look around me, nobody else is doing anything. And I actually, and I'll go to Greg first on this one, is I see that happening a lot with rookies and senior staff. Like, don't get me wrong. Rookies have to work. We know that. You know, they're going to get a blunt of the work because part of that really is they're going to learn. I mean, we all know that. Part of it is that they're going to learn. You know, that's why you want to give them the work. But sometimes it does get to a point, though, where, you know, they are working, they're going above and beyond, and then sometimes the senior staff may just kind of be chilling while you're just, as a supervisor, just assign this rookie to every job that is coming along the way. And it's like, okay, well, you know what, at one point I understand it, but get the person into the job, get them familiar with it. I understand there's a learning lesson there, but also be careful how much we do that as well at the beginning of their career, because you're going to wind up having rookies that are not going to be very happy with their position, also very angry with their senior staff, because they're expecting support, they're expecting family, and what they don't want is, I'm here doing inventory after whatever the jobs may be, and I got senior staff that's just chilling and just, you know, watching me run around and scramble. So as management, again, I understand that you want those rookies to learn, you want to give them those assignments, but just be careful. You don't want to overload them either, because it will eventually build separation. Because I've seen rookies literally talking to other rookies saying, you know, I just did this, I haven't had a break, haven't done nothing. And then I look out and I see that all the senior staff are just chilling, and it kind of builds a little bit of a divide. I mean, what's your thoughts on that, Greg? Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a fine line between earning the respect or the opportunity to take a break and be able to say, you know, I don't have to do those, you know, you don't want to call them lower level jobs, but those entry level posts, you know, where I've got to walk this post or I have to do this or that. Because first of all, as a leader, whether or not you're promoted or not, whether or not you have a rank or not, as a leader in your facility, as a senior member, you want to teach those younger officers how to do those jobs correctly, no matter how menial they seem. So we have to make sure they get it, how to do those jobs correctly. So we lead by example. We can't just let them do those jobs. We have to take that on. Now, is there some level of learning trial by fire? Yes, absolutely. But again, like I mentioned, we're in a dangerous industry. I can't just put a guy out there who's never done a job before that may cause a problem for some other post down the line just because I don't want to do that job anymore and he's the youngster. The same theory applies when we get new people on shift. They haven't worked very many hours and suddenly there's overtime to be had. So it's like all the new people, yeah, give them the overtime. Next thing you know, it's 6 months, 8 months down the road and they're burned out because we've given them too much overtime. We worked them too hard right out of the gate. You have to work that into a person, build up that level. So we need to be fair and equitable across the board, learning, teaching, growing these new staff, but don't beat them like just because they're a brand new horse or brand new mule, whatever you want to call it. Don't just beat it into them, because we will learn quickly that we will burn them out really fast.
And Russ, I see you nodding too. What's your thoughts on that with, some supervisors that may decide to work the rookies past their breaking point while kind of letting the senior staff just coast? Is there a balance to this at all?
Well, I think that there certainly can be a balance to it. It's not just supervisor's problem, though. You see a lot of times where some of the older, more seasoned staff take advantage of those individuals, and they're the ones that are, you know, pawning some menial tasks off on them that they should have been doing themselves. And, you know, it really becomes a factor where, you know, when you're that senior officer, rather than believing that, you know, you're owed a break, that you're owed something at that point in your career, you should be modeling that behavior where you're going out there and you're the one taking charge. You're the one showing these young people what to do. You're the one that's, you know, out there still making a difference day after day. There's not some magic number that you hit at, you know, 5 years or 10 years or 15 years or 20 years where suddenly you're owed being able to rest through most of the day. That's not the type of behavior that we should even think about modeling. Though, no matter how much time you have in, you should be pulling your weight and you should be taking charge, because, you know, from the beginning of your career to the end, you know, you have the chance to impact something every day in the way of safety and security. So that last day when you show up and you think that, you know, you should just go ahead and just, you know, be owed just being able to sit there, maybe instead you should be trying to make an impact on your very last day. Go out there and find that last shank. Go out there and document that last gang member or whatever. But so it's not just a supervisory thing. It's really a peer-to-peer thing. And I don't think that anyone should be thinking that they're just owed a particular, you know, easy job. I remember I remember when I went through, after I had finished my time as a sergeant, I went back as a retired annuitant for 2 years. And so I went back at the level of officer. And so basically, when you were a retired annuitant, you got to call in and you got to pick any job you wanted. And so, I would call in and they would start running me down the jobs, gravy jobs, hospitals and towers and things like that, set me up and said, no, I want to work on the yard. I want to be out there on that yard. I want to be out there making a difference. I want to be out there, finding stuff and, keeping my reasoning, faculty going day in and day out. And so, eventually they were really glad to have me call in because they knew that, I would take any job, no matter how hard it was. And so that's the type of individuals we want. That's the type of behavior we should be fostering and looking toward, especially when you're trying to build leaders and build safety and build security.
I like how both of you guys, first, Russ, you're here to work regardless, but I like how both you and Greg also touched on the fact that, it's also a chance to teach. It's also a chance to share your expertise, and I think a lot of people don't actually take advantage of that, where, when you see a rookie that's overburdened, it would be great to see a senior officer say, hey, let me help you out here. I'll show you how we can go ahead and ease it on down a little bit. But the thing is that you're right. You need that staff that's motivated to help the rookies instead of just sitting there watching them kind of, scramble a little bit and then just kind of take their break for however long they want to feel that they could. But again, the reason why I mentioned the supervisor is because the supervisor kind of reinforces it by not doing nothing. You know what I mean? By, not assigning the senior cops. Like you have a rookie that's running around doing 20 million different job after job after job after job, while he's just allowing the senior officers to just relax and not step up. As I said, there are some senior officers that they're not going to be able to watch that comfortably. And they're not going to be able to watch that rookie cop go through that scramble and then in the back of their mind think, well, how is that rookie cop ever going to respect me? How is that rookie cop ever going to respect us if the first thing he's coming in is he's expecting some connection, some support, and all we're doing right now is letting him run around and scramble while we go ahead and, dilly-dally and wherever it is that we're doing. So I think that's definitely a first sign where, like Russ said, when someone gets into this profession, that's a great way to show support to a rookie by, yes, you're going to get a lot of work, that's fine, but I'm going to complement that or balance that with I'm going to take this as a chance to teach you. So you're not getting out of the work, don't get me wrong. You're a rookie, you're going to be working, but let's make this not tedious. Let's make this an experience where you can learn and, build your craft, right, Russ? Become that apprentice, But again, when you're an apprentice, you're mimicking somebody. You're not alone scrambling just to scramble. Do you find this happens in the medical side of things, Connie, where you may have some senior staff that try to push off what could be perceived as harder work to the younger crew? And then do you actually have maybe some older staff that actually want to step up and, maybe share their expertise to the rookies that are new to the field to, basically make this a learning experience like Russ said?
For sure. We have those folks who've been doing corrections for a really long time, and they see people come onto the units or they see people come into the facility and they see them fumbling or they see them trying to get their bearings because it can be very overwhelming. And you do see them, pull them aside and try to help them out. Let me help you get organized. Let me show you the best way to set up your clinic. Let me show you the best way to engage with the officer. Let me show you the best way, so you do find those people who want to share their expertise because they remember what it was like when they were first on the job and when they didn't have support or the value they got from the support they had when they were trained well. But you do see those that from time to time who, they're just tired, it's time for them probably to retire, but it's a good job. Right. And so I'm not quite ready to go, but I don't want to work too hard either. And so they kind of push some things off. And I know we don't usually want to say that, but like it happens where they're kind of like giving some of the tougher or more tedious sort of assignments to those who are newer or younger and kind of just passing off. And they'll give some tidbits on how to work it, whatever that thing is. But, sometimes it's, I'm not working very hard anymore. We got these young people coming in, let them come in, do the hard work, and I'm just going to take it easy. You know, they may take some of the easier posts or the easier assignments, but we try to do our best to rotate those assignments so that no one person is kind of just getting the easy assignment. It's not like they come in and they get to choose or to pick and choose. You know, they come in and this is what you're doing for the day, or this is where you are on the rotation. And, you know, it kind of is what it is, but we do our best to make sure that no one's left out there on their own. And if you do find yourself kind of stuck out there, usually you get those conversations where you get information in passing. Like, oh man, I'm so tired today. I was doing da-da-da-da-da-da, this whole list of things. And you're like, why were you doing all of that? That was assigned to this person, or that was assigned to that person. And sometimes you just have to go correct it, you know? And of course, those aren't the easy conversations to have, because, you know, there's always a justification for why this was given to somebody, right? But it is what it is.
Well, you know, it's good that we have this dialogue, because when I got the email was pretty much about a rookie who's doing the scrambling, you know, and at that point, it's not about what they're learning. It's about the fact that they're being overworked. I think at one point is, even though some senior staff may push it as it's a learning experience, you know, you're a rookie, you got to learn the job. Yeah, but there's also, you don't want to overwhelm them either, because at one point they're not learning anything. You know, when you have an overwhelmed employee, actually, I'll be honest with you, when they start getting overwhelmed and they start getting overburdened with work, they may start to actually learn shortcuts to get the work done quicker. You know, to be honest with you, instead of being able to really take their time and learn the craft, you know, one step at a time. Instead, we're just throwing them in and having them try to, you know, basically throw things at a dartboard, hoping I hit a bullseye. And in the end, I just don't think that's a productive way of actually being out there and cultivating that growth, because that's the key. And I say cultivating because that involves a partner. You know, that doesn't involve just letting the rookie run around scrambling and then kind of look around and see everybody else is doing nothing. And here they are, they can't even get a second to breathe. And the other part we mentioned was to build a bit of separation. Now, the thing also I want to mention is motivation, because the thing is that when we have a discussion, if I'm management, right, and I feel that someone's not pulling their own weight, it's not going to be so much of me like just dealing with it in the moment. I want to motivate them to know why it's important for them to pull their own weight. You know, the consequences if they don't, how their peers can perceive them, you know. And again, we talked about the ripple effect, the dangers of safety and security, medical, life and death. But how would you go, and I'll start with Connie first, if you did have that employee that, you know, is kind of pushing towards the end of their time, you know, and again, they're more focused on the way out than they are coming in, obviously. So they're looking to cut those corners, and you want to motivate them to pull their own weight. You want to motivate them at this point to step up and keep that motivation in them. Because this isn't like I tell you to pull your own weight and then I walk off and expect you to believe in that. You know, I need you to go beyond that. I need to motivate you to pull your own weight. What would be some of the things that you would do to motivate that employee to step up?
So one, I would have to have a conversation to really understand why they're not pulling their own weight. Because I think it's easy for us to assume that we know why they're not pulling their own weight, right? Why are they suddenly unmotivated? I think once we understand why they're not motivated, it kind of helps us strategize for how to gain that motivation, or how to sort of reinvigorate them, right? And sometimes that is giving them the step by step. So here's what I'm expecting of you today, right? And you may have to do that many days in order to get them doing the things that you know need to get done. I think it's also understanding or being able to explain that in you not doing your work, explaining what that ripple effect is, explaining the impact that you not doing your work is having on your peers, on your colleagues. You don't want to be that person who walks around and people are like, yeah, you know, anytime you come working behind this person, here's all of the stuff you got to do, because they never finish anything. They never document everything that has to document. Like, they make work much harder. And so you become that person. So I think it's really transparency in the conversation, in letting them know the impact, as well as trying to sort of reinforce that I understand where they're coming from, but here are the expectations. And it might be a little bit annoying, you know, as a manager that has to constantly have that conversation. But you can now also document that you've had these conversations, and that you're trying to put them on a path where they're more productive, and that, you know, they can see how their lower performance is impacting the team.
And Greg, I see you nodding your head because I noticed that I bet you're kind of on the same page with me where how Connie is pushing discipline towards the end. Like, you want to be constructive, build that understanding, and then see if you can have something that's long lasting, because discipline really is a last resort. You know, we're supposed to be constructive and we want to build something that has a foundation to motivate. But eventually, if you can't do that, obviously Connie keeps on saying document, because eventually it may have to go to the point where I'm going to have to discipline. But as I said, if you had to correct an employee that just wasn't pulling their own weight, you know, and again, trying to motivate them from a custody perspective, what would be some of the things that, because I saw you in agreement with Connie, but what would be some of the things that you would look for immediately to address that employee? And then would you eventually also do the same thing? Would you actually say, well, at this point, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to start documenting, and then eventually it's going to start leading to a discipline?
Well, yeah, I want to make sure, and I'm sure Connie and Russ would completely agree, we want to make sure first and foremost that the person is actually capable of the job. We have a wide variety of people who come into corrections. We have a 60+% turnover rate in corrections nationwide. Why? Because we have a lot of people who think, oh, I'm going to try this industry out, and it just doesn't work for them. So we do have a high turnover rate. So the first thing I'm going to do is find out, does that person physically or mentally have the ability to do the job I'm asking? Because the first thing I'm going to assume is you haven't been trained properly. How can I retrain you to get you up to speed? And once I have taken the time and energy to retrain you and ensure that you're not a complete moron, that you actually can do the job, because we have plenty of jobs inside the walls that are capable of, that a lot of people are capable of. Once you've been retrained, then yes, I do have to go progressive discipline, but I don't want to go right after the stick. I want to try the carrot first. I want to try and motivate, because I can't afford to consistently do, well, the way we used to do it. When Russ, I'm sure first starting corrections, you screwed up, you got chewed out. That was absolutely the way it happened right away. It was, you know, that's just the way it was. It was a little bit that way when I started too, but that's not the way we manage anymore. That's not the way we teach and train. There's a lot more of the, dare I say it, the huggy-feely side of it, which isn't all bad. You know, we do want to give people the benefit of the doubt, give them a little bit more time to make sure, because we make a tremendous investment in our new staff. It costs 33% more to hire a new person than does to retrain a person we already have. So let's take the energy and time to ensure they've been trained properly. Let's invest in our training departments, which I'm a big part of that. I know Tony as well, and Russ has been in training. Connie does training. So we agree that training is a big part of it. After we've exhausted that, then yeah, we are going to have to look at opportunities to, are they ROD? You know, are they retired on duty and have checked out already? Are they incapable of the job, or are they just lazy? So we have to go through those checklists in our minds to determine where they fall into, and then we determine what can we do to fix those issues.
And Russ, I know you've been there before. You've completed your time in corrections, you know, so you've been, you know, those last couple of days or last couple of years when you're more focused on the way out and you're keeping yourself motivated. Is there anything that you did for yourself that if you saw someone else in the profession kind of, you know, giving up the work and just not really stepping up, is there anything that would help motivate you that you could go ahead and motivate them to kind of, come on, guys, do your job, pull your weight, let's go. You're not done yet.
You know, the two main things that you can do to fix that kind of situation, number one is lead from the front, and number two is train from the side. You know, there's a lot of supervisors, there's a lot of peers out there and stuff that think that they can just lean back and they're doing their part to train this individual by sending them on, you know, these wild goose chases all over the place while they kick back with their feet up on a desk. That doesn't help anybody. That doesn't get anybody trained. That doesn't instill any esprit de corps. And it certainly does not make your facility any safer or more secure. So you have to be beside them to train them. You have to, you know, whatever it takes, you know, holding them by the hand, showing them how to do that shakedown, showing them, you know, how to go in and start cuffing operations when you've had a major event like a riot take place. You have to be there beside them. But then more than that, is you have to lead from the front when you're not doing those training operations, and you have to show them the way it should be. You have to be the one willing to go in there and face these situations with regards to incidents. You have to be the one that's out there that's deciding, hey, you know what we're going to do today? Today we're doing tattoos. Today we're going to do documentation. Today we're going to find some gang members and we're going to lock some people up. Maybe today is going to be the day that we're going to go looking for cell phones. Maybe today's the day we're going to do some kind of drug interdiction or some kind of weapons interdiction. Or, you know, maybe today we're just going to read people's body language, and tomorrow we're going to work at finding out why their body language was off. All of these things should be making these people better. If they're not, that's the time when we have to go on to the discipline that we talked about. But trust me, I feel that, you know, if I have to deploy that discipline, I feel like I'm the failure. Really, I would take ownership for, you know, training people. I take ownership for leading people. And, you know, it's not a good thing. You shouldn't be getting any perverse joy out of it. You should look at it as a failure of yourself.
Hey, Russ, Greg actually had a good question. He wanted to know if we do that even if we don't have the title. So, Greg, do you want to clarify that? You know, you could, yeah, take the mic. It's a dialogue, brother.
Yeah, I mean, Russ, you bring up an excellent point. I want you to expound on that because, you know, you say, okay, today we're going to work on tattoos, today we're going to work on gang identification, or today we're going to work on shapes. If I'm not a training supervisor, if I'm not an FTO, if I'm not a supervisor, should I still take on those tasks? Should I still be reaching out to those other officers and trying to impart wisdom, even if I don't have the title?
Absolutely. You know, I did things, you know, from the bottom level as an officer, you know, all kinds of, you know, types of interdiction and identifying gang members and, you know, try and put yards back together after serious incidents. I had there, I'll tell you, me and my best partner ever, Kenny Gonzalez, we were sitting there. It'd been 3 days since a major incident. I'd done what I thought was right on putting the yard back together. And pretty soon we're looking back and the warden is coming on the yard. And, you know, that warden didn't stop at the sergeant's office or the lieutenant's office. He came to us and asked, can we open this yard? Because he had that much confidence in us. He had that much time invested in making sure that we knew what we were doing out there. And so, you know, rank or some official title, you know, whether it's FTO or whatever, carries some weight, but everyone out there should be making themselves into a correctional expert. Everyone out there should be making themselves into a journeyman correctional officer that can take on most any task. You know, just if you think that being a well-rounded correctional officer is going out there, reading your post orders, doing what they tell you for the day, and then going home, you've missed the boat completely. There's a whole other world out there. There's a whole other operating level out there. And look around, look at some of those individuals that are operating at a higher level than their rank, a higher level than, you know, some of the lieutenants and some of the sergeants that they work for out there.
You know, I actually want to comment on that too, because some of the best training I got, whether passively or just actively, because sometimes you just watch people and they're just in a rhythm and you learn a lot from what they do, really wasn't from the trainers. It was from people that were doing that same post for 25 years, whatever it is. And I'm just watching them go through the motions and, you know, learning habits. And the funny thing is that they may not even be realizing that they're teaching it. You know, it could be just such a routine for them. And it's like, wow, like I remember a senior officer taught me, hey, when you go by these cell doors, before you shine a light into their room, check the lock. Make sure the lock is still intact. Put your foot by the door, you know? And these are things that I don't know if an FTO is good. I mean, don't get me wrong. The policy, Russ, is correct. But also living it every day, there are going to be things that you don't know to teach because it's become such a part of your routine. But then someone else is going to pick up on it. You know, it's funny that you mentioned that because I'll give you another example. I've worked at 3 prisons in my career, right? So I'm on my 3rd one now. And sometimes what I feel was 101 is not 101 at a new location. You know, I'm sure that happens to Greg on a national level, going to all these different prisons. And, you know, you see something that you're like, wow, how could this person be messing this up? That's so simple. Not if it's never been introduced. You know, it's simple to us at our level. Yes. So there's a lot of things that I've learned from officers that didn't have the training title, because again, they were in the routine, they were in that momentum, and again, they pulled their weight every day up until they retired. You know, every day, this is what they did. Because also, I would like to add this too, because you guys mentioned this earlier, but the reason why you want to pull your weight every day is because something can happen any day. So if you don't pull your weight every day, then you could be the reason why something happens. You know, you could be the reason why, hey, inmates are watching you. Hey, Russ is down to his last 5 days. He don't give a shit about this job, you know, at this point. So we're going to go ahead and, you know, do this and that and this and that. And if by chance, I don't know if this officer watches my channel, because he's an officer that's been retired for many years now, but he actually trained me without probably realizing he trained me. But he was the one, his name is Phillips, I'll put his name out there, who taught me how to do rounds on third shift. You know, it's not something that was taught to me by a training officer. It was because I worked third shift, I hung out in his unit, and he was productive with me. When I went in to hang out in his unit because there was, you know, dead time, it wasn't like we were chilling and doing nothing. This was a guy that talked and told me things and taught me about the jail. So he took advantage of that opportunity. And that meant the world to me, being new in this career. And I had a lot of respect for him. And then he finally retired. But he gave me a lot of knowledge that I thought was maybe his sign-off. You know, maybe I was the last person he gave. I don't know. But that was his complete sign-off. But I guess we can kind of wrap it up. We're trying to keep the shows a little short so more people can stay and listen. So I will start with Greg for his final thoughts. What was your thoughts on this topic about pulling your own weight? But more specifically, though, what was your thoughts about definitely having senior staff help the rookies a little more instead of just overwhelming them with work in regards to, you're not really learning anything at this point. I just don't want to do it today.
Right. I think it is critical that, and I preach this everywhere I go, you are a corrections professional. I don't want to hear the term jailer. I don't want to hear the term guard. I want to hear that you're a corrections professional. So act like a professional every day. When you show up to work, impart wisdom upon your coworkers, be respectful, have some integrity, and do a job, do a great job, and attack the day. And that means ensuring that you carry your weight. Don't make somebody else pull your weight for you. I know you've got 20 plus years into the facility. You served your time. Well, you still showed up today. You're still getting a paycheck. So do your job. Do your job today and do it well and carry that on so that when you know you retire and you go live somewhere else and do your job, that jail, that prison is still safe, still run professionally, still secure because you imparted your abilities on that. So do a job every day. Do the right job every day. And otherwise, you know what? God love you. Godspeed. Go work somewhere else.
Yeah, and I know it sounds like we're being harsh, but again, it is important that we actually discuss this. I didn't actually think a majority of the dialogue was going to be about that, but for some reason it snuck into that. And then I started thinking like, wow, that actually makes sense. And when you guys started agreeing with it, I said, you know, let's keep it on. I actually changed the title to this episode. It was actually something like, are you doing enough to pull your own weight? I actually changed it to just let the rookie do it. You know, because I didn't realize the bulk of it could have led towards that. And we do have a lot of rookie officers that watch this channel. Now, Connie, before you go into your closing thoughts, I just wanted to know if you can answer one question, then you can go right into your closing thoughts. I didn't get a chance for you to ask about the title. Like Greg's question was a good question. I don't know if that relates to the medical profession, but I mean, some of the stuff that you learned along the way, I'm sure it didn't come from people that have that official training title, correct?
Absolutely not. I learned stuff from people who were doing it every day, the people who were on the front line, the people who could say, oh, no, if you do that, this is going to be the outcome. Because sometimes, you know, the trainers, they're training based on, you know, a curriculum. You know, many times not all trainers are coming from the field who can give you those firsthand experience lessons. And so, I mean, a lot of that I learned in medical was standing side by side with the nursing team, going into the doctor's clinic, sitting in with the doctor's clinic, you know, sitting in with the phlebotomist to understand why she does this thing. Not so much the x-ray tech, because no one really wants to be in there when someone's doing x-rays. But, you know, there were different ways that I learned. And it wasn't because, you know, the trainer taught me. It was because the people who did it every day were able to point out all the nuances to getting the job done and sort of the pitfalls when you do try to cut corners.
Right, and does that went right into your closing thoughts, or do you have any closing thoughts?
My closing thought is you came to work today, you're here on purpose, do your job. Don't wait for someone else to pick up the slack. And the chain is as strong as its weakest link, right? And I feel like this is one of those instances where it remains true. You come to work and you're the slacker for the day. And I get it, there's different reasons why. So I'm not calling anyone a slacker out of turn. But if you've come to work and you've decided someone else was going to do half of your job today, you have to understand the impact that has on the operation as well as on your colleagues.
Hey, Russ, would you like to say anything in closing?
Yeah, absolutely. It occurs to me that one of the things that we really look at when all this is going on is that, we started out where the name of this was going to be, are you pulling your weight? And, a few days ago, I was watching a video that Greg and I were in, as a matter of fact. And Greg was talking about the number of times that I'd been injured in the line of duty. And it occurred to me that, there is no amount of weight that you can pull that's ever enough in corrections. It can't be done because of the things that can happen to you. So, pull your weight and then pull a little bit extra.
Yeah, well said, Russ. And I think, guys, the next topic we're going to do is going to be what Greg called shift disease. We're actually going to talk about the different mentalities of, some cases, 3 shifts. Some cases could be 2. But we'll keep it a very general discussion. And I think it's going to have a relationship to the dialogue that we just had now. But I think this is something that's more worthy of its own episode. Now, guys, real quick, it was a great discussion. I mean, basically, I didn't know it was going to go into that. We didn't plan that ahead of time. But it does matter because in the end, I'm glad we had this discussion. Because if you look at it from the rookie's perspective, and I'm talking about a rookie that's dedicated, that wants to work, look how that perspective is going to change when they feel that they're starting to be used. Because when they look around, nobody else is doing anything. And then look at the divide. They're coming in expecting a closeness and some level of support. And sometimes that isn't just, I got your back when the inmate's coming at you. It could be, I got your back no matter what you're going through. Hey, I see, Piper's overworked right now. Let me go ahead and help him out. And to be honest with you, it should be something that's not motivated by your supervisor. It should really be like what Russ said, step up. You're sitting there, your day is a little bit easier than his. Maybe you can help out. Maybe you can volunteer, because the volunteer is what carries the weight. That to me shows true intent, as opposed to, a supervisor asking you to do it, because we all see that rookie scrambling. And in the end, that they're not learning at that point, guys. They're in survival mode. They're going to learn. The only thing that they're going to learn is how to cut corners to alleviate the burden that's now on their shoulders, as opposed to really taking their time and learn. And probably what would be great is to learn next to you, someone with great experience that could pass off that knowledge. Because I'm going to tell you something before we go, because it really does matter. It does relate to pulling your own weight. It does. But you could have somebody that truly does become successful in their career. And as they talk about their glories and whatever it is, whatever they've, accomplished, they wind up always going back to those first few days where the impression was getting ready to be set and the tone was getting ready to be made. And they think about something as simple as what I thought about, putting my foot by a cell door and checking to see if the locks are working. Something that simple. But that's because an individual took the time out to cultivate me. And it meant the world to me because it set my path and maybe actually gave me the motivation to be where I'm at. So just having that impact, it has a lot of value, trust me, at least to the person that you're communicating with, and especially at that time when they're the most vulnerable. They're looking for that. They are. They just may not tell you that, but they're looking for it. As always, guys, the show is tipped. If you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post up a video. Take care, guys. Goodbye.